Hey, Rogan here. This video will outline the first 3 months of your guitar journey with focused exercises and a clear path for progression. The things I show in this video will take you from this to this. But remember, it comes with practice. I need you to give me 15 minutes a day for 3 months, and in return, I'll give you the tools to be the guitar player you've always wanted to be.
I'm going to give you the keys to the Lamborghini.
There are 5 major steps of learning the guitar that gets you over the initial hurdles and gets you playing like that. Those are fundamentally learning the string names and how to tune and keep the guitar in tune, learning the 8 essential chords, learning songs that use these 8 chords to practice smooth transitions, learning right-hand rhythms and strumming patterns, and gaining dexterity, accuracy, and playing strength. So first things first, let's learn the string names and how to tune our guitars. A great way that I've seen many times and what I've taught to many students in the past how to remember your string names is by following the limerick, Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. So starting from your thickest string up here, all the way to your thinnest string over there, you're going to follow along with that. So it goes, Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. Think of the first letter of each word. You've got E, A, D, G, B, and E. There we go. So those are also the notes that you play when you play an open string. So if I play my thick string, we know that that's the Eddie string, so that is an E note, and that is also the notes that we're going to be tuning the guitar to when we use a guitar tuner. What I advise when you're just starting out is to avoid getting a chromatic tuner, and instead get either a guitar tuner or an instrument tuner of some sorts that can be set to guitar. You can also download an app on the phone, and those work fantastic. I personally use Fender Tune, which is Fender's tuning app, but there are loads that you can find that will work just as well. So chromatic tuners can be confusing at first, especially when we don't yet know the musical alphabet in its entirety. So we would like just a regular guitar tuner that can give us straightforward information so that we can tune our guitars quickly and won't be confused. Now that we've tuned our guitars, let's quickly look at a list of the 8 essential guitar chords. Now don't be fooled, there are dozens upon dozens of guitar chords that we will learn and look at throughout our progression. But for the first month of our 3-month journey, I would recommend that we focus on these 8 chords. Focus on learning their shapes, focusing on practicing to get them clean, and then also learning and practicing how to transition between chords very cleanly. And one of the best ways to do that is to learn songs. So many songs that we will learn as beginners exist out of these 8 chords and can be played that way. There's no better way to learn than to learn songs and have fun while we're doing it. We build up our chord repertoire, we build up our song toolbox, and we're having fun. That's the trifecta. So before we learn to play some of those chords, we're going to quickly focus on how our fingers should be positioned. When playing, we need to make sure that we use the very tip of our finger right under the fingernail like that, as opposed to the flat side or the round side. Because what this does when I push down a note like that, I'll turn like this so that you can see, it creates a straight angle off the fretboard and then it bends on the first joint. So what that allows us to do is, when we're playing the string that we are fretting, we get a good solid note. But also when we play the string next to it, they're both able to ring out. What we don't want, when you're using sort of the flat side or the round side of the finger, you can get that note out, but when you go to the next string, you can hear that I've got a dead note. So with chords especially, it's very important that we make sure that all of our strings can ring out cleanly and that we're not muting strings unnecessarily. So this is where continuous practice of chords will come in. Let's learn our first 4 chords. The first chord we're going to look at is A minor. So what we're going to do is we're going to take finger 2, place that on the 2nd fret of the D string. We will take finger 3, place that on the 2nd fret of G, and then we will take finger 1 and place that on the 1st fret of the B string. That's what your chord will look like. And we're going to not play the thick E string. We're going to play from the A string down through all the strings. That's an A minor chord. Now to learn the C major is actually very easy once you've learned A minor. What you're going to do from your A minor position is just lift your ring finger or your 3rd finger and move that up to the 3rd fret of the A string. Just like that. And then what we're going to do is play exactly the same strings as we just did, skipping the thick E string and playing 5 strings down. Got a C major chord. There we go. So what we call that between A minor and C is that we've got anchor fingers. So these fingers remain anchored on the fretboard as we are swapping between different chords. So some chords will share anchor fingers and some won't. Typically those with anchor fingers tend to be the easier transitions, but those without tend to be transitions we need to focus on a little bit more. But all transitions are absolutely doable whether there's anchor fingers or not. Don't be too concerned. So we've learned A minor, we've learned C major. Next one we're going to learn is E minor. So what you're going to do for E minor is you're going to take finger 2, place that on the 2nd fret of the A string, and you're going to take finger 3 and place that on the 2nd fret of the D string, just like that. And you're going to strum through all 6 strings. And there you have an E minor chord. That's it. Now the last chord of the 4 we're going to look at today is going to be G major. So G major tends to be a more difficult chord for people to learn for a couple of reasons. First reason is that we're going to be using all 4 fingers for this chord. And the second reason is that we're stretching across the fretboard. So what happens is 2 fingers remain on the thin strings right at the bottom of the fretboard, and 2 fingers are all the way up on the thick strings on top of the fretboard. So that can be a little bit of a challenging stretch, but give yourself some time and you'll get this one easier than you think. So how we play this is we start off with our 4th finger or pinky finger on the 3rd fret of our thin E string at the bottom. We take our 3rd finger or ring finger and put that on the 3rd fret of the B string just above. Then you take your 2nd finger, your middle finger, put that on the 3rd fret of the E string, the thick E string, and then your 1st finger, your index finger, you're putting that on the 2nd fret of the A string. And then again, you're strumming through all 6 strings, and it'll sound like this. There you have a G major chord. Learning chord shapes is only half the battle. The other half is learning to switch between them. But before moving on to this, trying to chain the chords together and create a progression, give yourself some time to practice each chord individually. A great way I like to practice chords, and how I teach my students to practice chords, is play the chord. Let's take E minor in this instance. Play E minor. Then take your hand off the fretboard and place it again, and then play it. Take your hand off the fretboard, place it again, and play it. So what that'll do is it'll teach you from having no fingers on the fretboard where the chord lies and how it sounds. Another thing to make sure of when you're doing this is to teach your right hand which strings to play for each chord, as that's actually quite vital, especially later on as we start progressing through the chords. So once you're comfortable with how the chords look and you're comfortable with placing them down, we do need to remember to check that we are playing the chords cleanly. So we need to use the tips of our fingers, not the flat bits. Make sure when you're playing you do have an angle on your joint, on your finger, and then it turns on the first joint. And make sure that the other fingers or your palm is not hitting strings where it shouldn't be and creating dead notes. So with chord transitions, a great way to learn these and have fun while practicing is to learn songs that involve the chords that we are trying to use. When we're just starting out, we don't want to confuse ourselves by focusing on what the right hand is doing and what the left hand is doing. So for now, all I recommend to do is 4 downstrokes with the right hand before swapping chords. So what I mean by that is, if we're going to swap from G to A minor, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then swap. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then swap. 1, 2, 3, 4, and swap back. 1, 2, 3, 4. We should focus entirely on what's happening here with our fretting hand and swapping between chords, and later on we will learn how to color in our rhythm. So the first chord progression we're going to look at, I just showed you half of it, is going to be G to A minor to C back to G. So there's a challenging chord swap in there being G to A minor, and then there's also an easy chord swap in there being A minor to C. What you're going to do is just play 4 down, switch chords, play 4 down, switch the chord, play 4 down. In total, it's going to look like this, starting with G. Next progression I want us to look at is going to be C to E minor, back to C, back to E minor, and then A minor. So again, what we're doing is 4 downstrokes for each, and then we swap chords. So it'll look like this. So the next part of learning is training the right hand to do some rhythm. So I'm going to show you the strumming pattern, and I'll do them slowly so that you can follow along as well. Please pay attention to the number on the screen, because I'm going to be counting our downstrokes, even though we'll be coloring in the space in between each downstroke. That way you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll swap chords, and then again 1, 2, 3, 4. But you'll notice that there will be strumming in between as well. Let's look at What's Up by the 4 Non-Blondes. So I'm not going to be playing any chords right away. I would like you to focus on my strumming hand. So how that looks is, it goes down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. And then we switch chords. So to give you an example, and you will now notice how the song sounds, I will also be counting up here every downstroke, and you can see that we are switching on 1 each time. This is what it sounds like. So remember, down, down, up, down. Here we go. There we go. So just follow along with that. You are absolutely welcome to take that slower until you get to a position where you are comfortable. Another thing to bear in mind with practicing transitions like that is we want the chords to be clean. We don't necessarily need the transitions to be fast and smooth and seamless immediately. It is more vital to focus on playing clean chords than it is to do clean transitions when we're just starting out learning chords. So what that could look like for you is perhaps something like this. Starting on G to A minor. And then we stop and we place our fingers cleanly for A minor, and then we continue the strumming pattern. There's no harm in doing that for the start of the journey, because again, we want the chords to be clean and we would like all the notes to ring out properly, rather than speeding through the transitions and just playing incorrect chords. Those are bad habits we don't want to build up as we start out. Great, so the next song we're going to look at is Hey There Delilah by the Plain White T's, and that was the C to E minor, C to E minor, and then A minor, and we can end it on a G if we would like. Okay, so how the chord progression looks again: C, E minor, C, E minor, A minor, and you can end on a G. Here we're going to be doing what we call a bouncing rhythm. So a bouncing rhythm is a lot of fun for the right hand to do, and it sounds very interesting, but it's actually very simple to do. So it's a very interesting guitar sound. It makes the music sound alive and more rhythmic, but it's very simple for the right hand to do. So what we're going to be doing for a bouncing rhythm is we're going to play the first 2 strings of the chord on our first downstroke. So what that would look like in a C chord is I'm just going to play the A and D string like that. So just hit them together like this. I'm not strumming all the way through. I'm just hitting the first 2 strings like this. Now it doesn't matter if you hit 2 or 3, as long as we're sort of dividing the chord in half when we do this. And then on the second downstroke, you're going to play all the notes through. So it sounds like this. Okay. So we can try that. Again, you can focus on the timer here or the countdown here, and you will see that on each 4, or rather on each 1, we are going to be switching to a new chord, but we're still coloring in the space in between each counting. Here we go. C, E minor, C, E minor, A minor, G. Here we go. On the G. Now, rhythm can be counted, like what we were doing, 1, 2, 3, 4, but counting it turns it into a logical process that takes brain power to understand. But rhythm should also be felt. It's sort of like dancing or listening to music. You don't really think about when to bounce your head or to move your body. You just automatically do it to the pulse of the song, because it's almost like an instinct. So as we play, we are going to start feeling how music feels and how we're going to keep within time and create different rhythms, as opposed to logically having to think about it. But guitar is a little bit different from dancing and listening to music in that there is some thinking involved, especially when you start. So the big thing is, don't get frustrated with yourself during these processes. It can be challenging to focus on right hand rhythm and on chord swaps at the same time until it becomes muscle memory and second nature. As a beginner, we just have to take all the progress we can and continue building on that, rather than becoming frustrated with ourselves and hampering our progress because we don't feel like practicing. So I would recommend adding a new chord every 3 to 5 days for the first month of your guitar journey, making sure to play along to songs that include those chords. It's also important that you practice the chords like what I showed you in this video. For example, play the chord, stop playing the chord, play the chord, etc. And then again, finding songs that include that chord so that we can also practice transitions to and from that chord. So if you're not sure which chords to be learning, you can subscribe. I'm making shorts every single day showing new chords, and you can follow along there. Then finally, I'm going to show you the not so secret guitar exercise that every beginner should know and be practicing to gain dexterity, finger strength, accuracy, and confidence in playing, the spider exercise. So for the spider exercise, it's pretty simple. All you're going to do is place finger 1 on fret 1 of the E string, play that note with a downstroke. Finger 2 goes to the 2nd fret of the E string, and you play that with an upstroke. And then finger 3 on the 3rd fret, playing again with a downstroke. And then finger 4 on the 4th fret, playing again with an upstroke. So it's important that each finger gets a different stroke. So down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, etc. We call this alternate picking, and that's very good to learn now. Get into the habit of doing that because we will be strumming down, up, and we will also be playing certain melodies in down, up fashion. So how the spider exercise looks in totality is starting here, downstroke, first finger, first fret. Then once you reach here, you just move down to the next string, so on the A string. And then once you reach the thin E string with your pinky finger, you're going to slide your pinky one forward. So moving it all the way to the 5th fret, and then you're going to do that same exercise but backwards. So going 5, 4, 3, 2. And then you move up a string. Making sure the whole way through to alternate pick. Then once you reach back here on the 2nd fret with your index finger, you are going to move that one forward 1 fret to the 3rd fret, and you're going to carry on that exercise forward again. And you will carry on all the way until you reach the 12th fret there, and then you can call it a day. It's not going to take you very long. That's a 3 to 5 minute practice. And as you get used to doing it, you're going to start doing it faster and faster, and that will shorten the practice time as well. Please just remember that, again, we want accuracy, so take it slow at first. Prefer accuracy over speed. Don't start fast and make a mess of it. Start slow and just get everything accurate as you're playing through. And there you have it. If you spend 15 minutes a day practicing your chords, your chord transitions, incorporating right hand rhythms while playing fun songs, and working on that spider exercise, you'll get through the beginner stage before you even know it. Trust me, give me 15 minutes a day for 3 months. I'll see you in the next one.